Thanks very much for the invitation, and to the ReMO Action as well for organizing this meeting, and the organizers on site. Unfortunately, I cannot be present in Ankara, but I still hope we can have a discussion and that you will find the presentation useful. So indeed, my presentation is about the initiative on reforming research assessment that we have been facilitating over the last couple of years. So I will give you an overview of what this initiative is about, and as well what are the next steps, and how you can get involved, hopefully, in the future. So first, why do we need a reform of research assessment? So basically, as you know, research and as well the research processes are undergoing major evolution. They became more open and collaborative, and also the outputs of research are not anymore restricted to just publication, but there are a wider array of outputs, data sets, software, and so on. However, the current research assessment system is still very much based on a very narrow set of indicators, and this is mainly the quantity of publication and actually the venue and the associated prestige of the venue in which these publications are published. And so I think very relevant for this meeting as well, this has created as well a culture of hyper competition rather than collaboration, a lot of pressures on researchers to publish as much as possible, with unfortunately negative consequences as well sometimes on the mental health and well-being of researchers. So this really created the awareness about the need to move away from these narrow ways of evaluating research and expanding it, knowing as well that this endeavor is also quite complex because it entails really a systemic change, a change not only from one actor in the ecosystem, but from the many ones, from funders, from universities, from evaluation agencies, and so on. In the past, so this initiative is certainly a new initiative, but it's not a new objective because there have been in the past years a lot of good initiatives that have called from moving away in this direction and really from changing research assessment. You might be familiar, for example, with the San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, DORA, which really called already quite a few years ago on really not using journal-based metrics, such as journal impact factor, as really a proxy for the quality on individual of an individual research article. But I've been many other initiatives. I'm gonna not have the time to list them all. But actually also initiative at country level, such as the Dutch initiative Room for Everyone's Talent, where actually all Dutch stakeholders from universities to funders, academia came together indeed for reforming research assessment. And there are also many good initiatives at the level of individual organization, individual university funders. But the problem being that these very good initiative, although bringing progress, this is still remains quite fragmented and called really for more systemic change to be achieved across not only Europe, but hopefully globally in the future. There is also to mention the political context, because although you will see this initiative has very much been driven bottom-up by the stakeholders and facilitated by the Commission, still the political context was really quite supportive in creating the momentum for reforming research assessment. And so, for example, I'm going to cite the Council conclusion that there were in 2021, which established the future governance of the European research area, and as well the ERA policy agenda for 2022-2024. And in this policy agenda, one priority action is about reforming research assessment, and 22 member states of the European Union, but also 3 associated countries committed to this action, so to implement these changes as well and supporting this shift at national level. And we also had in June 2022 another important statement from member states, because there were the Council conclusions on research assessment and the implementation of open science, which really encouraged stakeholders to join coalitions willing to affect changes in this direction, and as well member states and the Commission to work together to identify barriers at national level and propose as well solutions. So in this slide, you see a bit of a snapshot of the progress over the last, as I said, couple of years. So we started in 2021 with a very intensive consultation, bringing together a lot of stakeholders and thinking what could have been the principles for a reformed research assessment. The outcomes of this consultation were published in a scoping report, and this scoping report was the incipit for a larger work that was carried out in 2022. So actually, there was the feeling that a reform of research assessment would have been successful only when there was an agreement among all actors in the ecosystem. And this prompted a huge work that was done last year about drafting an agreement on reforming research assessment. This agreement was published in July last year and is currently being signed by many organizations. And actually another step has been as well the launch in December last year of the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. I will tell you a bit more, but this coalition brings together the signatory of the agreement and is really a place to share information, mutually learn, and actually advance towards reviewing and developing new criteria, tools, and processes. What is the common vision underlying the agreement? The common vision is that the assessment of research, and when we talk about research assessment, is really a comprehensive dimension because it's the assessment of research, so research projects, but as well researchers and research organization, so that the assessment recognizes the diverse outputs, but as well practices and activities that the researchers and research indeed is involved with, and that maximize the quality of research and the results in impacts. And this requires in the future basing assessment primarily on qualitative judgment, but supported by the responsible use of quantitative indicators. So the agreement contains, as I was saying, 10 principles for a reform research assessment, but as well concrete commitments for change. So signatories signing the agreement commit to implement concrete changes within a specific time frame. So just to give you a flavor of the 10 commitments, so there are 4 commitments that are considered core commitments because these will enable the shifts towards the research assessment systems that we want to see for the future. So as I was saying, recognizing the diversity of contribution, basing research assessment primarily on qualitative evaluation, but as well abandon the inappropriate uses in research assessment of journal and publication-based metrics, and avoid the use of international rankings of research organizations in research assessment. And this indeed, because in the many discussions that took place in the preparation of the agreement, there was the feeling indeed that many times the indicators used by international rankings then trickles down to the assessment of the individual researchers, and this sometimes create as well some negative effects. The agreement also contains 6 supporting commitments, and this enables, it's like the framework commitments that support the achievement of the 4 core commitments. So it's commitments to support the piloting, the development, the review of new criteria, tools, and processes for research assessment, but as well commitments that really engage the signatory mutually learning, communicating process, and making sure any new criteria, tools, and process that is developed is really evidence-informed and evidence-based. As I was saying, the agreement also includes a concrete time frame. So signatories commit to the 10 agreements, to the 10 commitments, but as well to implement them against a concrete time frame. So by the first year of signing the agreement, they will have to share with each other and with the community how they started the process of reviewing and developing criteria, tools, and processes in line with the agreement and according to their own internal action plan. And by year 5, to mention at least how they have completed one cycle of review, development, and evaluation of assessment criteria, tools, and processes. Some key consideration on the agreement that were very important in the phases. As I said, the agreement was co-created by stakeholders, and there were many discussions. I think that there were over 30,000 amendments that were proposed to the agreement. So you can see as it was really shaped by the community. And there were some key considerations that emerged during the discussion that have been fully integrated in the agreement. So the agreement is flexible and evolutive, indeed, because during the discussion, it was really stressed that a one-size-fits-all approach would not have worked. So the agreement is, of course, respectful of the diversity of assessment practices that can vary according to discipline, according to the type of research that needs maybe to be based as well on the context in a specific country, and it's respectful of the autonomy of the organization. So the signatory remain responsible and remain autonomous in setting their own criteria, tools, and processes for research assessment. And also something to emphasize, the agreement does not indeed predict a shift towards exclusively qualitative assessment. It is about when quantitative indicators are used, they need to be reused in a responsible manner. So it's not abandoning them in toto, but shifting to a responsible use of such indicators. And special attention has been given to researchers, and especially early career researchers they were fully involved in the drafting of the agreement. And if you see as well the agreement points, there are many pinpoints at how researchers needs to be involved in the implementation of the agreement as well, because it was very clear that any change to research assessment will have a very important impact on the career of research and especially early career researchers. And so their views had and still have to be taken into account as the reforms go on. And of course, the agreement is only the starting point, because by signing the agreement, it's a commitment for change, but this is a long process that, of course, will have to be implemented by the individual organizations. Just to give you a flavor as well of the number of signatories, we were really quite pleased that the agreement was so far really undertaken and signed by so many organizations, and not only in Europe, but also beyond, you will see. So there are a bit over 500 organizations that have signed the agreement. And as you can see, this organization, of course, a majority is university, but they also comprise the entire spectrum of organizations that are involved with research assessment. So, for example, as well, research funding organization, national evaluation agencies, but also academies, learned societies, and association of researchers. So really all actors involved with research assessment are involved so far in this initiative. And as I said, this of course is starting in Europe, and so far that's also why it's reflected in the number of signatories, that it's majorly in Europe. But the signature is open to all organizations around the globe, because indeed, as we were saying, reforming research assessment, and for this to be successful, it's important that there is interoperability in the requirements, and therefore this should become a global movement rather than just a European one. And also, actually, we see in other parts of the world similar discussions are already taking place, so quite positive that this will be as well not only a European endeavor. And a few words as well about the coalition. So as I said, in December, there was also the setting up of QARA, the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. And the coalition will be actually supporting the signatories of the agreement and mutually learn, collaborate, but as well piloting new criteria, tools, and processes. The coalition is stakeholder driven, and actually is led, and the strategic development is led by an advisor, a steering board that is composed of 11 members, and they serve there in their independent capacity. And what will be the key tools that the coalition will be using to support changes? It will be working groups that will be established as communities of practice, and they will work on a number of topics. And there will as well be national chapters that will be composed by QARA members from a specific countries, and will want to work and discuss changes that affect a specific type, a specific country or a specific region. Something to notice as well for the next step, Quora launched a couple of weeks ago, on 28th of March, the first call for working groups. The deadline will be 6th of June, and applications is open to all Quora member organizations. The topics of the working group are not proposed by the Quora. They will be proposed bottom-up by members. And working groups are meant to be inclusive. So each working group will have to explain as well how they will include the different types and sizes of organization, have a geographical diversity, and as well include a wide range of experience level in the organizations that will be involved. So if you are interested in learning more, you can visit the Quora website and you will find more information. And of course, I encourage many of you and many stakeholders in Turkey to have a look at the agreement and consider signing within your organization, and then also join Quora. The agreement, as well as the Quora organization, remain open for signature and for new members to join at any time. And then final words, I hope I still have a couple of minutes for this, about the Commission continuous support to the reform. As I said, we have been facilitating the drafting of the agreement, the launch of the Quora, but we are continuing to supporting this initiative, and we are very committed to that. One way is through the ERA forum that we have, which is an expert group gathering member states and associated countries, where we are continuing to discuss barriers to reform, possible solution, and continue to establish synergies between member states and the work that will be carried out by Quora and its organization and the signatories of the agreement. We are also supporting Quora. We are an observer to the steering board of Quora, and we are also supporting the secretariat of Quora on an operational level. And we are also ensuring synergies between the work that will be carried out by Quora and other relevant EU policy initiatives, such as the European University Alliances, the European Open Science Cloud, EOSC, but also relevant projects that we finance to support reforms of research assessment. And as well ourselves, we are a signatory as the European Commission of the agreement, and we are a member of Quora. And so we hope to benefit indeed from the work that will be carried out, and see together with other funders, together with other organizations in Europe, how we can also change in the future our criteria and tools and process based on the evidence that will emerge from the work of Quora. And of course, last but not least, I was mentioning how global alignment is very important. So we are involved in a series as well of working groups, the Global Research Council, the UNESCO working group. There is a UNESCO working group on rewards and incentives. So we are also part of this group to support global dialogue and alignment on the principles of the reform and the action. And of course, Quora is also very committed to reach out to organizations around the globe to foster really dialogue about the agreement, encourage further organizations to sign and to join this movement and Quora. So that was it from my side, and happy to take questions during the discussion.
Thank you